whatever you do, don't use toilet paper. As a mom, never, ever, ever did I think I would be giving anyone that advice, let alone on the internet, but here I am. Hey everybody, welcome back to TMI Tuesday, where we talk about all things TMI. Too much information, that probably went without saying. Either way, we're here today to talk about 5 things you had no idea about when it comes to your postpartum vagina. Number 1, let's just get it out there that your vagina will not be floppy. I'm seeing this on the internet all over. Like, for sure, your vagina is not going to be floppy. I think what people are thinking when they say this is that, okay, you've now had this giant head, for some of us more giant heads than others, have come out of a hole that traditionally was very, very small. And you might think it's never going to be that small again. But here's the thing, after you poop, is your butt floppy? No, it's not. It's made to get bigger and get smaller. Now, I will say that with childbirth, it does take some time. Like, it's not just going to be back to normal the next day because it was a huge event that happened. Do not worry. If you're someone that is debating about getting pregnant because you're not sure what it's going to do to your vagina, please know you will not end up with the floppy vagina. Vagina. That's what I wanted to say there. And even more interesting is that some women actually have a tighter pelvic floor. I hate that word because tight, like it's just, it gets a bad rap. The opening that is called your vagina inside your body actually is tighter because those muscles, they feel like they've gone through some trauma and their reaction is to get tighter. So if you had a tendency to have a tighter pelvic floor before you gave birth, like it was hard to get tampons in or sometimes sex was uncomfortable, probably after childbirth, you're still going to have a tighter pelvic floor than someone who never experienced that problem before. And some people that had a regular, non-painful vagina before birth, after birth have a tighter vagina. So it's just unknown what's going to happen to our vagina, but the one thing we do know is that it's not going to be floppy. Number 2, there's going to be a lot of bleeding. I think most of us have this thought that we're going to bleed after we have our baby, but we're going to bleed for quite a while. It's actually called lochia when we shed the inner lining of our uterus after we have our baby, and for 9 or 10 months you haven't had any bleeding or a period, but all of that uterine lining has to shed. I mean, your uterus was pretty big. It had like a baby inside of it. So now it is going to shed that lining, and usually that takes on average about 4 to 6 weeks before that bleeding stops. Although it can take women 10 to 12 weeks before they stop bleeding completely. So you would definitely want to talk to your provider if you hit that 6-week mark and you're still bleeding. A lot of times they don't want you to start having sex again until after all of that bleeding is done. So if you are still bleeding at 6 weeks, talk to your provider about it, and you guys can hopefully come up with a good plan about whether or not it's a good time to start having sex. Although, if you're like me, you weren't like chomping at the bit. But sometimes our hormones do crazy things and we really are like ready for action at 6 weeks. Some people think you won't start your period again. So once your lochia stops, you're not going to start your period again until you're done breastfeeding. That's not always true. With both of my kids now, around 8 or 9 months, I got my period back and I was still breastfeeding. I breastfed about 12 or 13 months with both of my kids now. There's been people that breastfeed for 2 years and still don't have their period back. There are people that start their period at 6 weeks. So a lot of variety in when your period starts, and if you are going to start up on a form of birth control, not like condoms, but like an oral birth control, that can affect when your period comes back as well. So another great thing to talk to your OBGYN or midwife about. I know you're at the edge of your seat wondering why you wouldn't use toilet paper. If you've had a baby already, you know that they don't recommend using toilet paper. They give you a fun little spray bottle to spray. I wonder if I can find that. Just one second. They give you this. This is the thing. You spray your crotch with this. That is what they give you. This is what you're going to use instead of toilet paper. And pro tip, when you use this, you're going to want to hurry. You're in the bathroom and sometimes the urge comes on quickly because your bladder has been stretched out and moved around, and if you've had a catheter, there's just a lot of things going on with your bladder. And you're going to want to rush and you're going to want to fill this really fast. If you put cold water in this, or the water's too hot, you're gonna have regrets. You're gonna have a lot of regrets. Make sure the water is warm. If it's the summer, you can probably leave it out in between uses and it'll be okay. If you keep your house cold, you're not gonna like that. Make sure the water is warm when you spray it and rinse yourself after going to the bathroom. Otherwise, it's not gonna feel good. Number 4, it's dry. It's really, really dry usually. This is of no fault of your own. This has no reflection on you as a woman. Contrary to what the popular singers are singing about, the wet vaginas, they are not the only way to go, and it actually has nothing to do with you at all. So the reason that we dry up in our vaginas a little bit after we give birth is that our hormone levels are off. Our estrogen is usually low, especially if we continue to breastfeed. We are going to have more prolactin, which interacts with how much estrogen we have in our body, and so to make sure everything works the way it's supposed to, it decides that sex is the less important activity, and so it does not produce the natural lubricant that we sometimes have. It might not be the same down there as far as natural lubricant after you have your baby. So don't be afraid to use lubricant when you start to have sex again, especially if you are going to breastfeed beyond those first 6 weeks. When you do start having sex again, just layer it on, pile it on. You might want to check out this video above about the different types of lubricant, because some you actually cannot use with condoms safely unless you want to get pregnant really, really soon, which I don't know. I didn't. Maybe you do, but definitely check out that video for more details about that. And number 5, your vagina is not going to fall out. I was reading through a mommy group, postpartum mom group, and I came across this post that described it as one day they were sitting in a Mexican restaurant and all of a sudden they felt like there was a brain. Well, I guess she said she felt like there was an egg coming out of her vagina. When she got home and looked, it looked like there was a brain coming out of her vagina, which is probably very terrifying and surprising if you did not expect that or have any idea that was coming. For this person that had that happen, that is prolapse. That does not happen to everyone after they have their babies, just to like clear that up in case that was a reason that you were thinking about not having kids. But it can happen, and basically what can happen is either your uterus or your bladder or even your rectum can start to protrude through the vaginal walls. Whole nother video about that again. When that happens, sometimes it protrudes so far it starts to come out of our vagina hole, and when that happens it can be a little frightening, but pelvic floor physical therapists like myself are happy to help with that. We can do things to get it back inside. There are surgeries, there are also non-surgical options, so definitely check with someone about that. Talk to your provider at the very least. We do not want anyone walking around with pure anxiety and fear because you're afraid that your uterus is going to fall out. It is not going to fall out, and we want to make sure it stays up there where it's supposed to be, and that is our goal as healthcare providers. So there you have it. Those are 5 things I think every woman should know probably before she has a postpartum vagina. But hey, if you happen to be here and you already have a postpartum vagina and you've been wondering, why is it so dry down there? I hope this video was super helpful. I would love to have you subscribe to my channel and become a member of this community where we talk about all the things that nobody else is talking about and we need to know about, because it's our body. If you are someone that was thinking, oh, that prolapse thing, that sounds like that might be something I need to know more about, head over to this video here. I will explain prolapse the best way that I possibly can, make it super simple to understand and what to do if you do have prolapse. So head there next. It has been an absolute pleasure hanging out with all of you today, and I will see you all in the next video.